So today's session will start with Mr. Siddhant Agarwal. He works as a program coordinator with Google Developer Relations team in India. He currently takes care of Developer Student Clubs program and Google Developer Experts program in India, along with managing TensorFlow user groups. He has also led the strategic and execution efforts for the Build for Digital India program, which is launched in partnership between Google and Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology from Government of India, where more than 7,000 students participated in it and built solutions that can solve for India. A design thinker at heart, he loves working with startups and helping them scale in UX and improve their designs. Thank you so much, Siddhant, for being part of Indo Data Week, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Parvati, for that introduction. Really excited to be part of Indo Data Week. This is my first time joining folks over here, and super excited to talk to you about something which is like really close to me, building for next billion users. Thank you so much, Parvati, and I'll quickly start off like without wasting much time with the deck. just a disclaimer before I get started. Whatever we talk over here in this presentation, these are like some of my experiences and learnings. It's only that are of mine and like collated from various places, and I'm assuming that it's just for educational and not for profit purposes, and they might be like copyrighted content. So just a disclaimer to let everyone know about it. Before I begin, allow me to take a moment and like talk about the current COVID-19 pandemic that has caused extreme amount of panic and suffering in the entire world. The world is experiencing things that it has never seen before. Globally, we had seen cities and countries under lockdown. We are like still seeing some of the countries going back into lockdowns. Some have removed the lockdown to contain the spread of COVID-19 virus. But I have to take a moment and say this: like we are all in this together. There's a long battle going outside, and I urge all of you to stay at home, stay indoors, stay safe until it gets passes. But this too shall pass. So just stay safe, stay healthy, keep you and your loved ones safe and healthy. And with this, let me welcome you once again to this talk about building for next billion users. My name is Siddhant. I work with Google Developer Relations team as program coordinator. And what we do at Google as part of this team, Developer Relations team, we enable and empower the vibrant Indian developer ecosystem to build impactful solutions using Google technologies that can change the lives of the next billion users. So how we do this, like how we really create an impact is through some of our programs that we engage with. Maybe you might have heard of some of these programs like GDG, Google Developer Groups, which are like community-led groups of developers who are interested in Google's developer technology. They conduct like in-person meetups. I'm talking about like pre-COVID times with some demos, talks and stuff. There's one program called Developer Student Clubs program, which is something that I'm taking care of right now in India. We have 275 developer student clubs in India across 120 plus cities. These are, think of them like university-based community groups for students to learn more about like Google's developer technology, open source technology and stuff. The main intent is to help students grow their knowledge in a peer-to-peer learning environment and build solutions for local businesses and the community. And then there's a program called Google Developer Experts. It's a group of highly experienced technology influencers, and also those who are active in the community, like they have been doing these talks, workshops, blogs and stuff from a long time, and they have the technical expertise as well. So we recognize them. These are independent to Google, they're not Googlers, and they neither work for Google at any capacity. Sorry. Next, we have a program that helps startups called Google for Startups Accelerator, and this is something that I would suggest all of you. For India, GFSA badge for this cohort, we are about to start a cohort, or I guess we have already started. I'm not too sure. I'm not part of the team, but this is a program that I would suggest all of you to like have a look. Go to developers.google.com go to communities, and you will find links to Google for Startups Accelerator. For those who are joining from different region outside India, check if it's like if the applications are still open for your region. If not, just stay tuned whenever the next application opens. Usually a cohort is like a 6 months long, so just before that applications open up for Google for Startups Accelerator. So this is a really amazing opportunity for you, where we help startups build and scale, create products and companies, connecting them with the best of Google and its people, its network, its thought leadership, and the technology itself. So do check this out. Last but not the least, this is a program called Women Tech Makers program that gives more visibility and community and resources for women in tech. So we try to bring more women in technology, and that's where we thought of like if we create a separate program, like although it's not restricted just to women, anyone can be part of it. Just that like women feel more inclusive, they feel like more confident, and we can drive innovation and participation in the industry by them. So that's where this Women Tech Makers program is there. So these are some of the programs that we have, by which we try to like build next billion user products and experiences. Uh, Let me just dive into the actual talk and ask you a question. Like, if you were to develop an internet-based solution that helps this old man, and this old man could be a farmer, a grocery store owner, or a shepherd, like he could be anyone. How will you do it? What are the things that you will keep in mind when building for them? So this is an old person, like a farmer or a shepherd, someone who has never used an internet before, and you were to like develop an internet-based solution. Uh, so what will the things that you keep in mind? How will you do that? But just before that, doesn't a fundamental question struck your mind? Like, why do we really care? Like, why we should even think of building something for a villager, and maybe for an instance, our grandparents? Like, why do we really care about building for them? There are a lot many people out there for whom we can build, the people in metros, tier one cities, that we can build for them. But why we should really build for them? I'll tell you the answer for it. Why they matter. Because these are the next billion users, or users belonging to the NBA market, as we say in short. Now, I'll try and decipher next billion users in this talk. I'll try to take you, like, introduce you to next billion users, and also how to reach these next billion users. What are the things that you need to keep in mind on how they access internet, how they then later on interact with the internet, and about the product inclusion that we think from a Google's perspective, and also how we help in building products that helps in view market. So so by January 2020, there were more than 5 billion users started using mobile phones for the first time across the globe, and this is adding to the global internet base of more than 4 billion users. This is something on a global level. Let's talk something from an India perspective. With more than 500 million internet subscribers, India is one of the largest and fastest growing markets for digital consumers. But adoption is uneven among businesses. As digital capabilities improve, we have seen that connectivity becomes omnipresent. Technology is poised to quickly and radically change nearly every sector of India's economy. So right now, India is number one globally in terms of number of people enrolled in UIDIA. For those of you who don't know what is UIDIA, it's a unique identification authority of India that issues Aadhaar card for Indian citizens. And it's number two in terms of digital adoption. And how does this digital transformation really translates into the growth of India's economy? And that's what I'm going to talk next. So India can create over $1 trillion of economic value for the digital economy in 2025. This is something that I'm not quoting from myself. Like with 500 million, half the opportunity originating in the digital ecosystems, let's bring up in the diverse sectors. So you can see the diverse sectors out here. Like we have financial services, job skills, agriculture, education, logistics, retail. So from these diverse sectors, this has been quoted in a report from Minister of Electronics and Information Technology in partnership with McKinsey, where they have said like India can create over $1 trillion of economic value by 2025. That's the number I'm talking about right now over here. That's the potential. And when I'm talking about digital transformation, I'm talking about people that are getting online, that are adding to the subscriber base of people who are subscribing to internet on a global level. So let's meet the next billion users. But I'm sure by now you would have guessed like what are next billion users. Just to make things simpler, next billion users is basically a classification given to the segment of users getting online for the first time across the world. So these are people that have never used internet before. They're for the first time getting online to internet. Think of them like they are subscribing to the internet pack for the first time. They're using a smartphone for the first time, like that. So if you look at the term next billion users, it often used to describe the internet opportunity in emerging markets. So this is a term which is like first coined at Google's Mountain View headquarters in 2015. There were two Indians, two Indian Americans were at the helm at that time. There was one that was leading Google, and the other one that was spearheading its next billion users initiatives globally. And that's Sundar Pichai and Caesar Sengupta that had envisaged all the emerging economies in the next billion users project. So if you look at all Google products are like next billion users first, and 65% of world's population lives in NBU countries. This is an interesting fact to note that uh, we like when I asked you that question about a farmer or a grocery store owner or a grandparents, like these are like niche billion users. They might not have used internet at any point of time. And that's why we see like 65% of world population is living in these NBU countries. NBU is more than like just a matter of geography. A large population of NBU will be in India. That's like kind of quoted like predominantly in various reports, and there have been like various case studies on it. And this brings in fresh opportunities for startups working for the Indian market. And not just in India, there would be like a large proportion, there will be in emerging markets, basically. India now has more rural internet users than urban ones. Those of you who are outside from India joining this session, I'm thinking about like opportunities that you have in India right now. Like I'm an Indian by birth and living here since birth. So I'm a bit more close to Indian ecosystem. That's where most of my case studies and examples would be around India. But if you can relate it to your economy, that would be like really great. The low-cost data revolution and the government's digital push have made they see internet like more diverse and inclusive. The focus of next billion users has shifted so firmly and irreversibly to India that a Google product manager said at Neighborly launch. Neighborly is basically an application that helps connect neighbors, like people. It's like a community group of neighbors all around. They help each other, they post questions, they help each other, kind of thing, like a forum kind of product. So what did the person quoted? Like we think that the future of internet looks like the next billion users. We ask ourselves, if we are designing for Mumbai, not Mountain View, what would you build? This is the thing. So thing is, the perspective has changed. The perspective is not to design something for um, the high stake economies, to not design something for like Mountain View or Americas or other places like but instead design something for emerging markets. And rural India's explosive internet growth has been driven by rising smartphone penetration and inexpensive mobile data. So when I say inexpensive mobile data, the first thing that clicks our mind is a market captured or triggered by Reliance Jio, which launched in 2016. So 2016 was the time when things changed up, and the market grew new users by 18%. adding on the data revolution that's again triggered by Reliance Jio. So while rural India has more users, urban areas continue to record higher internet usage riding on the metros. So we should not leave behind the urbans. Like they are always the higher consumption, higher internet usage people. And India's top 8 metros, like population of more than 5 million, that have the maximum internet penetration of like 65%. And the internet penetration in India has increased in the past few months due to COVID-19 pandemic as well. Uh, Let me tell you how it has happened. So lockdown has also accelerated internet push in rural areas, which is never seen before pandemic. And according to data from CSC e-governance services, data consumption in BharatNet fiber backbone connected panchayats, rural gram panchayats, spiked to 150 TBs in May from just 55 TBs in January. And moreover, over 300,000 subscribers registered for a fiber to home connection during under the BharatNet program that launched in March. And there was like so far there are 1.2 million users who are subscribed to this Wi-Fi facility offered by the government. So you can think of the transformation that happened radically in last like 6 months during the COVID pandemic. So I should not say this, but like COVID pandemic actually accelerated the digital transformation for India, uh, like making sure that that internet is available to the rural segment of India. So far we have talked about like what are next billion users, what's the market opportunity for next billion users, like if you think about digital economy. So the question is still remains is like how to reach these next billion users, NBUs, or as I say, like next billion internet users, NBIUs or NIUs, next like new internet users. So let me take a crack at it and tell you like this is something that trying and like with user research and stuff, how to reach these next billion users. Okay, so in order to understand what is required to reach these next billion users, we need to understand like what are the foundations of internet access, like how new internet users access internet for the first time, like what kind of devices they use, how do they even connect to the internet, and then how do they identify themselves on internet. So we might be thinking from our perspective, hey, what kind of devices they use? It's pretty straightforward. The start smartphone. Okay, good. How do they even connect to the internet? Wi-Fi or mobile data. Good. How do they identify themselves on internet? With Gmail ID or any mail ID. Okay, but that's a myth. That's where the bias comes in. We are thinking just from our perspective because of the opportunities that we had given. Like we are in a world, like we are living so much resources around us, but that's not the thing. So let's talk about what kind of devices they use. Next billion users are not your average Pixel users. So this is first thing that you need to keep in mind. They are not your average Pixel users. Pixel or iPhone or those smartphones are something like a luxury for them, like way beyond luxury for them. And typically they come with a mobile only mindset. So if you're thinking, okay, I'll create like a web app which works only on desktop. So that doesn't work for the NBU segment. They come with just like mobile only mindset. For them, they have not seen something called as your laptop or MacBooks or your desktops kind of thing. For them, the smartphone or the phone that they're using is the first entry point to internet. They may have like older or like entry level devices, which means like they have limited storage and memory. So they are not like people who have like 128 GBs of storage and 8 GBs of RAM and stuff. They are like entry level. They're using an entry level device. They're using older operating systems. Like we can change our phones like every now and then, but they still use those older operating systems. They have smaller screens. We are tend to using like bigger screens and more smart features, but they are like they prefer a smaller screen, or rather they are using it. They're not prefer, like they're rather using smaller screens and smart feature phones. Like you might have heard about like those T9 keypad phones. So we need to think about like to optimize your product for an entry level device, which is like built for low RAM specs, reduce device storage requirements. Like the APK size should be less than 20 MB, or an on disk size should be less than 40 MB. So think from that perspective, like how you can build or optimize your product to work on low RAM devices, how you can reduce the device storage requirements, and build for non-keyboard digipad input modes. So these are three things that you need to keep in mind when it comes to devices and building for next million users. Let's take an example. So uh, in this example, the problem was there was a data storage issue, there was memory pressure, connectivity requirements, and that was um, that was poorly affecting the entry level devices in NBU countries. So how at Google we came up with a solution to build something for these entry level devices that are prevalent in NBU countries. So what we did is we came up with Android Go. We have Android, and then there is Android Go. It's a variant of Android OS that is optimized to work on a low memory and budget friendly smartphone. So those who are using like those entry level devices, they have Android Go like pre-shipped. They don't have to install it separately. Even for those who are using entry level device but are not using Android Go, there were and like Google apps that were Go specific, like as in there were Maps Go, there were Assistant Go or Gallery Go, to support that ecosystem of Google Apps, and to provide an improved user experience for NB users. So for these budget-friendly smartphones, we came up with like a whole ecosystem of Google Apps specifically optimized for these entry-level devices. So that's one example, like how we have been using uh, the learnings on building for entry-level devices. There's another one that's launched by Government of India. So a version of COVID-19 contact tracing application, Arogya Setu. Like those of you who know, this is an application launched by Government of India. So this application primarily relies on Bluetooth connectivity, and people usually use it on smartphones. But government think about like how to reach to people who do not have the smartphones and build something for like a T9 keypad phone. So it's now available, this contact tracing app, although it initially launched for Android and iPhone, but it's now available on a model of GeoPhone as well. And this is like, I'm talking about like around 5 million users. And it will be rolled out to other models in like some time. That's what the officials quoted. So these are like two examples of how to build or like optimize your product experience for next billion users. Let's talk about like data. How do they connect with internet? So the answer would be like straightforward, as you said, Wi-Fi or mobile internet. Okay. So NViews primarily use cellular data connections and face challenges. What are those challenges? Which is one is costly data. I know, like in India, the internet is now cheap, inexpensive, but still for them, it's a luxury. It's costly for them. The slower connections, and even for like outside India, the other emerging markets, the data is still expensive for them. There are not geos of the world out there to provide an inexpensive data. For them, the data is still costly. Slow connections, even though geo is there, it has penetrated a lot of internet users, but the IT infrastructure or the infrastructure in itself kind of to have like patchy connections, or they are like slow connection in some areas, just because like you can't put up like towers every now and then. So these are some of the challenges, like costly data, there's slow connections, or there are patchy connections. Now, how to build a data conscious product and features that minimize data usage. It provides transparency and control over the data consumption. Proactively plan for latency, like if things go down, what should be the next backup plan. Provide a seamless experience between online and offline states. So think of it like you are online right now, and suddenly the internet goes, and there's an offline state. So it's not that one should not think of and consider this offline as like an edge case, but more of like a seamless experience between an offline and online. Online goes down, offline picks up, offline version picks up, and then the experience should be seamless. So let me tell you, like with some examples, how this really happens. So again, with the higher cellular data costs in some countries, not specifically for India, MVs want to proactively manage their data usage when viewing content on YouTube or using Twitter. So when people are browsing videos on YouTube and stuff, they need to manage like how much data consumed. We don't usually manage our data consumption. Like we have like GBs of data with us at our exposure. We don't even think about watching a video at any time. But people like those end view users think about it for like every time. So YouTube Go, while it's a variant of the YouTube, as I said earlier, it also allows users to download content and save it for later. So we can re-watch a video at any n number of times, but they can't do that. So they can just like download once, save it for later, and it also gives them to set an option of like a data cap, like basic quality, standard quality, high quality, based on like data they have available with them. You can like the user can basically like adjust like which data I need to use. I have like just 10 GB left, 10 MB left in my data balance. I can just like download one video and keep it for a future like watch. Similarly, Twitter also released like Twitter Lite. It's a progressive web app that comes with data-friendly features such as like offline access and data saver mode. There are lot more companies that are thinking about like coming up with a lighter version, which is more data conscious. Lighter doesn't mean like it has less features or like yes, it's definitely applicable for like entry level devices, but Twitter Lite or like those Facebook Lite, those are like basically applications which are for like entry level devices. Plus, at the same time, they help the data conscious users. Similarly, Hike came up with like Hike to SMS for those who don't have Hike or they don't have internet still to message them, connect with them. That's where Hike to SMS or Hike to Hike offline comes in. Uh, okay, so moving on, I'll tell more about like how data conscious users interact. We came up with this Vodafone Idea phone line with Google Assistant, which basically like think of it, Google Assistant is only applicable for smartphones, but how to make this Google Assistant available to rest of the community, like rest of these NBU users. All you have to do is just dial this number or a toll-free number and connect with the Google Assistant just to ask your questions and get information. No data or internet connection required. Works very seamlessly. Are there new ways to support connectivity? Like Facebook is testing a new app to expand internet access in developing countries. So they came up with this interesting app called Discover that provides users with a balance of free browsing data provided by several mobile partners. And they're running this free trial in Peru, but they're planning to launch in like multiple countries in future, like Thailand, Philippines, and Iraq. Um, so Discover only provides like low bandwidth browsing. That's an interesting part of it. So you can only load text on a website, but not the video or audio. So it's still making sure that the new internet users or NBU users are connected to internet. They're getting some information with them, and if they need like more extensive features, videos, audios, and stuff, or data intensive elements, they can switch to other like cellular networks. But just to like make sure that the information is still available to them, they're still connected to internet, they came up with this solution. Okay, so far we have talked about devices and data, like what kind of devices they use and how do they connect on internet. But how do they identify themselves on internet? Like when I said identify, they need to have like a phone number or email ID or something else to make sure that they're connected to internet. So they first thing to remember over here is NB users aren't as familiar with email as we are. So they have just phone numbers. They may or may not have email IDs, but phone numbers are very familiar for them. They're easy to use. They like if you recall back, NBU users are mobile first. They're not desktop first internet users. So for them, phone number is the only thing that they are most familiar with. And they often do not see a value in creating an email account. So they may or may not have an email, but they do not feel any value. So how to build products that meet NBU users, where they are allow users to use the product without sign up or sign in kind of a process, but still protect user identity and privacy. So I'm sure like you would have already uh, heard about this product, and most of you are using it as well. It's WhatsApp. WhatsApp, I think WhatsApp was the first product which came out in the market that uses just the mobile number as part of its sign-in process. No email required, just your phone number is required, and that's what their main strategy for the customer acquisition has been. So you need to be mindful that requiring email-based sign-up may gate NBU users from using your product. So how you can like bridge that gap? Okay, so far we have talked about data, devices, and identity. About how do they access internet. Now they know how to access the internet. We like you build a product to understand how do they access internet. But now the question comes in, how do they interact with internet? So what influences their interaction? They're not on the internet, but what influences their interaction? So voice is often preferred as it's easier than typing. So they usually prefer voice because it's easier to type. Vernacular, of course, voice should be like they should be able to recognize their local language. Even the UI should be like vernacular. Content, what UI, the content which makes it more useful and relevant to end view users. So vernacular and voice, like although there's a lot of overlap between the two, but they're kind of like separate as well. So when I say voice, basically like it empowers the inexperienced users. They enable low literate users, like those who do not have that education of using internet. They simplify input, like users can bypass the keyboard, offer understandable output, like and you like you should also know that voice may not be the right solution for every product. It's a optimal solution most of the products, but not for every product. So consider integrating like different voice modularity to make your product more accessible through like speech to text or text to audio playback kind of things. Let me take another example to help you clear your doubts. So spelling and keyboard can be overwhelming to less literate users. So think of it. I talked about WhatsApp. So WhatsApp, if they have to penetrate into next billion users, how to do that? Like uh, they have built a product which they have think about like devices, data, and identity. Good. Next part is how we make it more accessible for people who do not know how to type or use it key. So they introduced this voice messaging services in 2013, enabling users to send audio messages in addition to text. Google's voice recognition algorithms, you all know this, like it's getting better and smarter day by day. One of the areas where you can notice this improvement is like YouTube. You can now even like give commands and YouTube immediately starts playing a video and it does a voice search. Another example, and this was talked during Google for India last year, how the Google Assistant is becoming more helpful. Now you can order food hands-free. You can have like a real-time conversation between two people who can speak in Hindi and English, get things with the power of voice. Um, you can book a ride with Ola or Uber. You can check your bank balance, those kind of things. This is an interesting example that I would like to take all of you. So this is COVID-19 India.org dashboard, pretty much in use, like a one-stop solution to find out the number of COVID cases in various districts, state, UT, confirmed, active, recovered, deceased, so on and so forth. So although these people, these were like a bunch of volunteers, like some like it started off with a Telegram group. They came up with this entire platform. It is completely in English, neglecting those who are living in tier 3 or tier 4 cities who don't know how to read or read English. So these folks at Slang Labs, they came up with like a voice enabled tracker. They have this button on the top, bottom corner. You can see in the screen itself, I have marked it. Search with Google Assistant. So basically, you just like voice it out and just like it gives you audio playback. So they converted the entire COVID-19 tracking dashboard into like a voice-enabled COVID-19 tracking dashboard. Gives you an output, hey, in this in so when I was like when I created these slides some time back, they had support for just in English, Hindi and Marathi. I'm not sure if they have added more languages, but yeah, it's a good start over there. This is another company that's transforming customer experience with voice AI. We had never, like before, has voice automation been more in focus than in the post-COVID-19 world, where physical distancing and work from home and contactless interactions are becoming the new norm. And one of these startups, the automation startup, vernacular.ai, is riding this wave. So what they do is they help enterprise automate call centers, queries using its multilingual voice automation platform called Viva. Is like it is seeing a good results and adoption as well in the automation across various sectors. So that's on the voice. Now talking about like vernacular, we all know we need to think about like Indic languages and vernacular content, and that's where the language localization can make your products more relatable and accessible. Sorry. So local languages can, of course, make your product more relevant to these next billion users. Many of these next billion users are multilingual, and they move between languages. Device language settings often do not reflect like the true language preference. For example, whenever you fire up an app, you do have this option to change the language. That's good. Like, but many people don't know. They are the first time users. They're coming to your application. For them, the first time experiences, they're seeing like a UI in English. They don't know where to navigate to. But instead, if you're giving them an option to customize their UI at the first screen itself, and then also giving a second option to change their language preferences at any time within the application. That's what the difference will be and would be more relatable to next billion users. So, for example, this is an example about an app called Hike, which has 100 million users, and how they were able to gather these much users. So they thought about like vernacular content and localization. So they started offering stickers that are like that reflect both national and regional festivals like Holi, Diwali, Onam, and Gudi Padwa, which was like very appealing for the users. Users felt like, okay, something that I can relate to. People started exchanging messages and stickers across like 40 languages. Another example was like even like that's what I was talking about. Like many users set their device language to English like a default one, but people don't know how to read, write, or type that language. So Assistant enabled millions of users to interact in native languages. So even if they don't know English, they just like in those 9 Indic languages or native languages, they can just like speak, and without changing the device settings, it just changes the entire UI in that language, native language. Um, this was again announced during Google for India. Google Lens, it's an application where you just point a camera to an image to a sunboard, and it just like reads out loud and translate documents, look words. And it can now understand Tamil, Telugu, and Marathi. Again, an example of how to make your product uh, accessible for people with native language. Bolo, it's another application. Bolo is now called as Read Along. Uh, it's a speech-based app to help children learn how to read, and it's now available in more Indian languages like Bangla, Marathi, Tamil, Telugu, and Urdu. Even the Arogya Setu app, I was talking about this application and the exact use case where when they launched this application, and the moment you open up an application, you do not see an English UI. You see the language fonts and various languages. You select that language, and that's what I'm talking about. Like it's available on feature phone for landline users, available in ethnic languages. So it's kind of a product. Like I'm seeing a first product, something which is like very much helping all the segment of users. Then there was this product where you just like change the language, pick in the language input played, and just changes the language of the entire Google Assistant itself. Local app. This is another example where we're talking about like English speaking users in India have access to internet products for almost like everything. Looking for a job, one has the option to like select from like multiple established and new startups that provide job listing. But this goes beyond metros, and there's a dearth of quality internet products besides the usual ones, and there are not enough apps to make the lives of the non-English speaking population of the country easier. And that's where this app comes in. It helps the mobile users of tier 2 and tier 3 towns and villages of like Andhra, Tamil Nadu, Telangana get those jobs. It provides like a local news, classifieds, matrimony advice, advertisements, and job listings in the local language itself. And then language continues to be the key to drive product adoption with India to users. Flipkart is now available in Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, and Karnataka. The company had previously stated that most of its new users are coming from smaller cities and towns in India, and that's where they came up with this like a localized version of their own app. Even Flipkart's rival Amazon added support for like Hindi in 2018. It doesn't support any additional languages. That's what I know, but more or less they're thinking about like how to target these smaller cities, people in smaller cities and towns in India. Voice assistant like Flipkart added a voice assistant feature for those who don't know how to navigate in English. So voice assistant was added for them. Another important aspect of interacting with the internet is privacy. And the two dimensions for internet privacy: shared devices and gender norms. So consider your privacy strategies, like rethink customization and content recommendations algorithms. Enable privacy strategies and make them more discoverable, like deleting browser history, so or incognito modes. So when you're being transparent to your user, that's where the user will come back to you. That's the thing. Okay, so far we talked about next million users only. Now let's talk about small and medium businesses. How these small and medium businesses or startups in next million user countries interact. So if we move beyond consumers, the kind of like the way small SMBs in NBO countries behave, it's kind of similar to the consumers. They resemble that behavior, the characteristics resemble. They are also mobile first and often mobile only. They lack traditional digital presence, like they have website or app. They prefer like simpler tech tools and platforms. Face structural challenges not present in like mature countries. So pretty much everything is similar. They face similar challenges in accessing the internet as consumers. Entry-level devices, data portability, patchy, low-speed connections, as well as persistent structural issues like power outages, unreliable postal services, constrained access to capital. So how do we empower 60 million India's local retailers with these challenges all around us? There's this company called Love Local, which is formerly called as Empani, that are working to solve for SMBs in NView and build products for them. So mobile first, have an intuitive design, enhance and simplify offline interaction with customers, take into account structural challenges like your power outages and stuff. So they came up with this interesting product, which is digitizing and organizing local retailers to deliver the neighborhood shopping experience of the future. So you don't have to like step out of the house. You're still buying from a local retailer, which is kind of like a preferred shopping method or mode for people in tier 3 and tier 4 cities, but instead digitizing it, automating it. Amazon has announced that sellers can now register and manage online businesses in Hindi as on its marketplace to break the language barrier. Okay, this was all about let me just do a recap of it. We talked about who are next billion users. We talked about how do they access internet, how do they interact with the internet, and then next billion users is one segment. Then another segment is the small medium businesses where these next billion users can play a pivotal role. Let's talk about like product inclusion on building the product. So how do we deliver on this message when we created Google? It's like create for everyone, design for everyone, code for everyone, and build for everyone. So how do we do that? How do we deliver on this message? If you recall our Google's driving mission, which is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. So that universally accessible, that's where the story for product inclusion begins. Like we have to do this for everyone. We don't have to leave anyone behind. People could be from different come from different places, ethnicity, race, gender, socioeconomic positions, abilities, etc., etc. We have to think about like a user-first approach. Sorry, why? Because of, again, the huge potential in the economy that lies in that we're talking about over here. There are 700 million users that are coming online in the next few years. There's a large untapped audience to cater to. So think from that perspective. Let's revisit the timeline of product design and development. We start with ideation, we do a user research, we form a team in between, we prototype, we do UX design, engineering design, stress test, feature requests, get signed off, logging metrics, ML training data, we launch it, we do performance reviews, we do market, PR, support, and we get the feedback and we reiterate the product. This is the typical timeline of a product design and development process. But where does the product inclusion comes in? It's in 4 areas where you need, like in the product design process, we need to prioritize our product inclusion. Ideation, UX, user testing, and marketing. Within Google, like 100% of teams that have brought an inclusive lens did so at least like 2 of those 4 points. So ideation, user testing, user experience, and marketing. So out of those 4, at least 2 were something that they always like brought into the inclusive lens. And this is applicable for both underrepresented and majority groups. Both of them prefer like an inclusive marketing and product design. Teams that proactively focus on inclusive design are able to create like more inclusive product regardless of team makeup. So the teams might not be that inclusive, but the design or the product that they're building is really inclusive. Let's look at this product inclusion in action.
Pictures tell stories. It doesn't really matter if it's a selfie or if it's a portrait that somebody is taking of another person. You are sharing in that human moment.
Let's take a picture, you two. 1, 2, 3. No, he's too dark.
So this is where the discussion started.
Here, just use my phone. It's got a better sensor.
Better sensor? What does that even mean? Color tuning is an extremely complicated process. When we look at images, what we try to do is figure out how much of a difference there is between, let's say, a reference image and the image that we actually are trying to quantify. we were running some tests on a product, and it was the proximity sensor we were testing. And we said, oh, it looks like it does 60 centimeters. And we looked at each other and we go, we're both white. The technology itself, as many people will say, is not racist. It's just that it wasn't tested properly to make sure that the designers weren't unconsciously biased. Hey, there's an entire world out there and we want to make sure this works for everybody. I love the fact that we get to influence cameras, that we get to share those experiences of life and emotion. And to me, that is what imaging is about. It is a vehicle to express humanity.
Take a picture of you two. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so that was product inclusion in action, how to create an inclusive user experience through your proactive and inclusive testing to avoid negative user experiences. And trust me, product inclusion should be at the core of it. This is an example, like the Duo app, it's low light mode, like ensuring people, users who are video calling, whatever the lighting they have, they're still able to, like, or the skin tones, they're still able to do a proper video calling. So, okay, 3 things to make sure that your product is inclusive. Address the user, race, gender, age, education level, everything are some of the dimensions of diversity that we consider when developing a product. So address your user and for everyone. Start with equity. Inclusion shouldn't be like an afterthought. You shouldn't think of it, okay, I'll build something first for X, Y, Z audience only, and then rest of the audience I'll think about it later on, which doesn't matter to me. We want to make sure that underrepresented voices are being heard through the product development process. So start with them during each of those 4 phases when you talked about ideation, your user experience, your user testing, and your marketing. And the last thing, third, is like continually test. To ensure your products are inclusive, we are always researching and testing. You should also do that. Continually test your products. And a commitment to product inclusion can't just live within one team. So for starters out there, this needs to be valued across the entire org. So whenever you're building a product, or so, like, it shouldn't be like product inclusion just like work with this one team or for one product. It should be across the value across the entire company itself. And if you're looking for more inspiration, you need to like learn more about building for next billion users or building for everyone. That's a good handbook that you can check out. It has some interesting design practices from Google's product inclusion team. Okay, that's it from my side. Thank you all for joining in. That's my Twitter handle @SiddAgarwal04. Feel free to get connected. And I'm looking forward to some amazing next billion user products coming out from this Indo Data week and by you all. So let's stay connected. Keep me posted about what amazing work that you're doing. Feel free to reach out to me or DM or tag me in your tweets. That's my Twitter handle. Thank you so much for joining in. And with this, I'll hand over to Parvati.